Good evening, everyone. It's Friday night, and this is Red Star Report. Red Star Report, the fourth episode for May 21st, 2021. Tonight, we have special guest Michael Loebs from the California National Party, who will be running for governor in the recall election. That interview will be coming up right after this. Tonight, for Voices for the California Nation, it's a common axiom with the movement. The California independence movement has no expiration date. It kind of states the relevance of inevitability and the irrelevance of immediacy. In other words, California independence will happen when it happens, and the trick really is to be ready for it. But can the same thing be said about the USA too? You see, America, on the other hand, apparently now does have an expiration date. 11/4/2022, the date of the next midterm elections. The day when American democracy will feel the full fascist effect of 360 voter suppression laws in 47 out of 50 states. A maggot doomsday clock set to make American democracy expire like the milk in your fridge. This is not okay. Oh, if you don't watch closely, it might seem okay, but American democracy is about to spoil. As Californians, we need to understand this. To put aside childish fairy tales about the USA's past glories and present last gasp of Biden hope and realize that modern America's future is not bright. If you've been paying attention to current events in Washington, D.C., and then take a moment to look up from your cell phone to the political horizon, it's hard to ignore. America has run out of time to save U.S. democracy. Ultra-conservative voter suppression laws are passing in 47 states. Again, 47 states. 47 out of 50. And half the U.S. Senate refuses to even consider investigating the treason of America's own elected officials at the January 6th Capitol riots. This illustrates that all pretty clearly. And if you pretend you don't see it or you refuse to believe it as a Californian, you may need to suspend your disbelief. Because really, what did you actually expect it to look like when U.S. democracy failed and America became a failed state? Were you looking for a coup, a revolution, or an idiotic storming of the Capitol? Or is the USA simply committing incremental suicide as a functioning society? Going out not with a bang, but with the cowardly whimper of voter suppression legislation and pre-rigging the 2022 to 2024 elections to strangle the last vestiges of one-person, one-vote democracy in the name of white American freedom. This shit is really happening. And it's even being televised. Parliamentary procedure hiding the low drama of high treason. Are we not watching a slow death by 1,000 cuts demanded by U.S. corporate fear and redneck outrage over the possibility of losing some profitability and or white privilege? Death by patriotic Americans' embrace of corporate control, xenophobia, Christo-Sharia, gun violence, environmentalism, and white nationalism, ensuring that soon there'll be nothing left for Californians but poverty, despair, filth, fear, rage, hate, superstition, and death, as long as we remain Americans. Could it be? As Californians, we know that America's conservative red state idiots will accept any indignity or any collapse of living standard as long as they get to wave the flag, carry guns, call us libtard, and not have to suffer anyone calling them out as violent, selfish, racist, or backwards. And Californians see this all the time. Trump revealed that fascism can grow in the United States. White supremacy is a fundamental form of American colonialism and authoritarianism, and it gave the conservatives relentless attack on the country's democracy, rule of law, civil society, governing institutions, acceptance by half of all Americans. Face it. 49.3% of America see Trump as a messiah, a hero of white civilization and real America, to speak for true Americans like them. Californians need to stop pretending that isn't true. Those Americans are real. They're still there. They aren't going anywhere. They want to overthrow secular and multiracial democracy. They want to take away the basic human and civil rights of non-white people, women, LGBTQ people, immigrants, liberals, and anyone else they see as un-American and the enemy. And we're Californians. With everything happening for the last 4.5 years, that agenda is well underway. For Californians, it should be obvious. Conservative America sees democracy, the rule of law, equality, fairness, and voting rights as unnecessary obstacles that can simply be removed to gain permanent control of the United States for a white, Christian, conservative American minority. That goes against what we Californians hold as core values. Still, many Californians remain Biden hopeful. They grew up being constantly told that America, at its core, was good, that it was somehow eternal. So they're willing to fight to the bitter end for an America that doesn't want to be fixed. An America that's ready to abandon the very ideals of freedom and democracy, and still not asking if an America that despises California deserves their loyalty. For we in the movement, there is no joy here. In fact, it's heartbreaking and sad. We're watching Californians suffer through this denial to grasp the truth about America's collapse. But it's obvious that long-time illusions take time to fade. The California independence movement has no expiration date. We'll be here when you're ready. But we hope you'll be ready soon. Californians, please think about the future. This has been Voices for the California Nation. Next up, the interview with Michael Loebs, hosted by Shankar Singham.
Welcome to a special Red Star Report. We have a wonderful interview today in regards to the California governor's race. So Newsom is up for a recall, and everybody's throwing their hat in the ring. And clearly, possibly, this whole thing, I see it as a ploy by the GOP just to throw a wrench in California. Why else would they be supporting Caitlyn Jenner, right? I mean, I believe they're just treating us like a joke with this whole thing. But in any regards, I know Newsom's going to win. I'm fairly sure he's going to win. And so that you have no other people from the left throwing their hat in the ring, but you do have a bunch of people from the right. Well, one of those people, a progressive, thank God, from the left, is throwing his hat in the ring just in case, is with us tonight. He's a lecturer at San Francisco State University in the political science department. He's also going to be a future small business owner. He's opening up a pub somewhere up north of San Francisco, San Jose. And he's also current, and this is the most important one, he's current chairman for the California National Party, which is the largest national California independence party there is in the world, basically. His name is Michael Loebs. Michael, how you doing?
Not too bad, Shankar. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you very much for doing this interview, my man. I really appreciate it. Just want to get your your perspective on the current situation, what's happening. Is that cool?
For sure. Happy to.
So let's just jump into it, man. The first question I got is, you're running for office. That's great. I think Michelle Gomez in Oceanside was running for mayor as well. How come there aren't more people in the movement, in the independence movement, running for office? Or why don't we have more candidates up there? What's your feeling on that?
I mean, my sense is that the issue about California independence is obviously it's a very big thing. Like, it's a thing that really takes people time to sort of ingest, to sort of contemplate, to sort of figure out, how it actually looks like in the real world. I think a lot of Californians kind of have two immediate feelings when they hear the idea. The first one is like, yeah, that totally makes sense. And the second one is, but that's never going to happen. And so you got to figure out how to kind of like get them away from part two and get them into part one. And I think a big thing you got to do is you got to show them how you can do a California politics outside of the current system. I think everybody who's paying attention can agree that the two-party system isn't serving California at all. Obviously, the Republicans, by and large, in much of California, are a toxic brand. Democrats in California basically just feel they have this entitlement to power. In essence, the Democrats can get around and be as corrupt and inefficient and shiftless as they want. And all they do is they say, what are you going to do? Vote for the Republican? You're like, nah, man, you're right. I'm not. I'm going to vote for whoever's got the D next to their name. And that just kind of leads to this system of people who use, in the Democratic Party, of people who just simply use the office for positions of power. They use it to move on to federal office, which is what they really want. I think the biggest thing about Gavin Newsom is, I've lived in San Francisco for over 2 decades. I saw him, when he was appointed District 2 supervisor by Willie Brown. The man's been running for president for over 2 decades, basically. He's been set up by the Gettys to run for president for 2 decades. And he's really worried now that this is going to like throw off his plans. I don't think he's that concerned about California or what's happening to Californians. He's concerned about Gavin Newsom's political career. And I think that's what you wind up with when you, in essence, have a single party state. So I think one of the first things we need to do to get more, independence oriented, or even if you're skeptical or not ready for independence, just the idea of a party that takes California seriously, a party that actually looks at California with its 40 million people, with its 5th largest economy, and takes it seriously as a form of national politics. For Democrats, a lot of the times all California is a very important piece on this American federal chessboard. But we're not just the Queenside bishop or something like that of the United States. We are a nation in our own right, whether we're willing to sort of accept that right now or not. So I think even for people who might be a little hesitant, a little skeptical of independence, I think the need for a California-centric party, a party who says what we're going to do is take into account the complexities and needs of California. That's going to be our motivating goal. I think Californians all over California, north, south, inland, coastal, rural, urban, everybody needs a party that's going to take California seriously and doesn't treat California like it's just some second-class subunit of the United States. So I think until we have that, we're not going to have as many independence candidates, and that's kind of what we need to push forward through is getting that California mentality out of our politics.
Michael, man, everything that you're saying is music to my ears. My sentiments exactly to a T. I mean, you have a look at Kamala Harris, look at Becerra. Where are they now? What happened to all the love they had for this state and how much work they put into the state for what they did, the good that they did? Where it all went to what? Because now all they care about is that pond. And you're so right. A lot of these politicians that get in here look at California as a smaller pond compared to the United States one, and that's really where their goals really lie, and not with this home. And you're right. We need to find people independence minded that care about our home first before anything else, really. But yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head for me, man. You're spot on exactly what's happening here. My next question really is, what is happening here? So what do you think is the biggest stumbling block right now for California? Like, what's its biggest problem right now? And what's like your solution to overcome that? Our biggest hurdle right now that would just be a great, there goes the reports, would be a great benefit to California if we could resolve.
I mean, I think probably one of the biggest things that's been, percolating in California for decades, but that's really, become obvious in this last pandemic year is, of course, just the massive inequalities regarding things like, access to resources, access to services, access to care, really when society comes and has problems. I think that's really what we've seen is so many Californians have been thrown out of work. So many Californians have lost access to their health insurance, and they've had to undergo this bizarre draconian system that basically treats you like a criminal because you need help. And I understand that fully. I myself, actually, strange story. I myself applied for unemployment earlier this year between my sessions, and I couldn't do it because I didn't have a smartphone. You needed a smartphone to sort of like take a picture of your ID and scan your face, and your phone had to be registered in your name. And this is my phone. So yeah, EDD's got nothing to do with me. You can fax it because I'm sure somebody in the office is just waiting to see your unemployment fax right now. But I mean, this is the thing. What we need is a system that kind of gets rid of this entire massive bureaucracy to sort of like filter out when the state decides whether or not you deserve access to resources. We need things like a monthly UBI. We need things like a negative income tax, which sets a certain limit of untaxed income. And if you make less than that, then you get a guaranteed refund. And the thing about a negative income tax always benefits you to work. You always wind up with more at the end of the day if you were working than if you're not working. And especially right now with so many Californians facing automation, facing employment insecurity, having to push themselves into part-time work. This is the problem you get. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this story in the last year. Here I am on unemployment and Medi-Cal, and I've been offered a part-time job. Do I take that part-time job? Because if I do, I lose my Medi-Cal and I got to start paying for covered California. If I got to start paying for covered California instead of Medi-Cal, I'm actually taking home less than if I stayed on unemployment. And this just shouldn't be the system. And where are we going to pay for this? We pay for it by getting rid of this massive bureaucracy that does this checkup on you to make sure you deserve access to Medi-Cal, to make sure you deserve access to unemployment. Once you just have a straight UBI negative income tax system, once every Californian, rural and urban across California, is automatically registered in Medi-Cal, so that if you've got other insurance, use your other insurance. If you lose your job, you don't have to go through 2 months when you really need it trying to get onto Medi-Cal. You're on Medi-Cal because you're a Californian. We set up a system like that. You pay for it by just getting rid of this unnecessary government bureaucracy. And then you actually have something that is able to work for all Californians. And here's the thing I think that's really important about things like UBI, negative income tax, Medi-Cal. Obviously, income inequality is a major thing in urban California. Here I am in downtown San Francisco. I can go up 3 blocks and see the most amazing wealth in the world. I can go down 3 blocks and see the most abject poverty in the world. So the inequalities that exist in urban California are clear, but even between urban coastal California and rural inland California, the disparities that exist here, we talk about the wealth California has, the size of its economy, but how is that affecting the rest of the state? How is that actually getting to people in Plumas? How is that getting to people in Inyo? The thing about something like a UBI and negative income tax, it moves that wealth into those communities. It gets money into Tehama. It gets money into Lassen. It gets money into Imperial. It gets money into Visalia. Now these people can start their own businesses, serving their own local clientele. And of course, you don't have to worry about things like, oh, do I have to hire you full-time so you have insurance? Because there's UBI and negative income tax if your employees are only working part-time. You don't have to worry as a small business owner about providing health care because everybody in California's got Medi-Cal. It removes so many boundaries to small business growth, which we absolutely are going to need post-pandemic. Because, for all the things we can say positive, negative about that took place in terms of California's policy in the last year, small businesses suffered disproportionately. And anything we can do to sort of re-emphasize locally owned small businesses is going to be a boon to California. And that benefits Californians anywhere, north, south, rural, urban, inland, coastal. Everybody benefits by locally owned small businesses, which this is what we need right now. As the economic collapse that came to most of us, clearly not to rich people who paid their taxes at the end of 2020, which now Newsom can use to bribe the population with the upcoming election, but actual small businesses, that's what we need to do, sort of bring that back to the communities of California. And UBI can do that. Negative income tax can do that.
So
go on.
Go ahead. No, finish. Please finish.
So I think economically that's a big one. I think another big thing that we need to focus on, which we're focusing on in my campaign, is creating more responsive government and getting a number of decisions to be made by elected officials who are more directly accountable to the voters. So obviously there are things that we need to have a California-wide policy on. Things like civil rights, things like environment, things like natural resource management. But for a lot of ways, the problem that a lot of Californians have and the reasons they feel alienated from the California government is they feel that decisions are being made by people that as voters they have no direct control over. I think this is a lot of the alienation that comes from rural California, is this feeling that Sacramento is this place where representatives who are coming out of Los Angeles, who are coming out of Berkeley, who are coming out of these other places are making decisions for us. And we can't just change our vote. We can't do anything about it, about these things that affect us. So if you start moving to things like a lower California-wide gas tax and focus on a county-based gas tax, and then you have the members of that county board of supervisors who are more directly accountable to the residents of that area making those decisions, and you can actually vote on that. Expanding the size of the California legislature, a larger assembly. So we have 80 assembly members and 40 senators in California. That's the number it's been since the Constitution of 1879.
Oh,
California's
wow.
now got 40 million people, and we still got the same number of assembly members and senators that we had almost 150 years ago. That needs to come to an end. So one of the things in the California National Party platform, which is big on my campaign, is massively expanding the size of the assembly by making a law that no assembly member can represent more than 100,000 people. Does that mean being California would wind up with something like a 400-member assembly? Absolutely. And Canada, which has 36 million people, has a legislature of about 330 people. The United Kingdom, which is about 60 million people, has a House of Commons of 650. Germany, which has about 80 million people, has a Bundestag of about 700 members. So yeah, that would just put us on par with actual democracies, not the sort of the artificial one in the American House of Representatives that keeps it at 435. And now we end up losing seats and shifting.
I think we just lost one, in fact. I think we just lost one because we didn't have enough people coming to California. They just, and it's not that our population went down. It's just that there's not enough people coming in, which is why we lost it. What's that?
Compared to other places. It didn't grow fast enough compared to other places. So those seats move around. That's just an absurd system. So we need to increase the size of the California legislature so your legislators are more responsive to you. And I think we need to convert the Senate to a proportional party list representation. We have a statewide list in California. You vote for that party, the party has its list, and that starts bringing in new voices. Right now, the only thing the Democrats and Republicans agree on is that there shouldn't be anybody else but Democrats or Republicans.
Michael, I got a question for you on UBI. When you were talking about UBI a minute ago, UBI. Now, your plan for UBI, is that for every single person, or is it you have to qualify for it, or is there an income for that UBI, or what's the threshold? Is it for everybody, or is it?
Yeah, the monthly UBI of $500 would be for everybody. Mark Zuckerberg gets the same $500 everybody else gets. But the negative income tax is what's designed to make it so that those who actually require the most assistance ultimately get that through the negative income tax.
Wouldn't you think that everything would go up in price a little bit, knowing that, hey, I know that guy's got an extra $500 in his pocket. I'm going to charge him a little bit more for rent. I know that guy's got a little $500. This car's a little bit more expensive now. You think that wouldn't that raise the prices if everybody got $500 versus maybe low income, a few poor people? That's my take on UBI. So what do you think?
Well, first of all, if you do that, it's not UBI. The U in UBI is universal, which means everybody gets it. If you want something that specifically targets lower income people, that's fine, but then it's not UBI. UBI, by definition, is universal. And of course, the argument that's often made in favor of that is the idea that what it does is it removes the stigma of taking government money. Because everybody then everybody then gets that $500 a month. Everybody, in essence, is getting that UBI.
Do you think that would drive prices up on a lot of things?
Yeah, it would drive prices up in the same way that things like increasing a minimum wage drive prices up. Like anything that increases monetary circulation drives money up. The distinction here is, again, what we're doing here when you do things like, and this is why I think what's actually more important is it's UBI in combination with negative income tax. because what negative income tax does, which I can just give a minute here. So in our specific plan, you set a limit of $40,000 a year. Everybody gets a $40,000 untaxed limit. If you make $40,000 or less, you don't pay any taxes. If you make more than $40,000, you pay taxes on what's above $40,000. If you made 80, you pay taxes on 40. If you made 150, you pay taxes on 110. Sure. And so below that, you get a guaranteed tax refund at the end of the year of half the difference between what you made and that $40,000. So if you worked and you made $10,000, you get $15,000, a guaranteed refund. If you work $20,000, you get a guaranteed $10,000 refund. You work $30,000, you get a guaranteed $5,000.
Agreed with you, my man.
What that does is that gets the money going to the people who do need it without having to go through this massive bureaucracy, which is just unnecessary, which again treats you like a criminal for needing assistance, and we need to just get rid of that system. And
Michael, let me get your opinion on what do you think about public banking? Because every election cycle, there's always a ballot measure out there for the public bank, and it of course fails because the private banks are just spend the enormous amount of funds on the negative campaign ads. But are you for a public bank? What's your take on that?
Yeah, we favor the California National Party and the campaign favor the eventual development of a public bank, not one that obviously not a public bank that completely gets rid of private banks. Bank in which every California, really more like a public credit union, because every Californian be a shareholder, and of course, once everybody has that public bank account, and this is of course the other thing, it's obviously death to places like check cashing. They're obviously going to be massively opposed to that, because then every Californian, rural and urban around California, would have a bank account. They'd be getting their UBI through that bank account. You'd be getting your tax refund through that bank account. If you want to shift it into a private bank, that's your business. But ultimately, we feel that there needs to be a California public bank, and that in essence, it becomes the means through which all Californians are shareholders in this California.
Michael, I've got this last question I've got to ask you. It's the elephant in the room. So I know you haven't met him, and I know you've heard stories of the synonymous Louis Marinelli. So he apparently has, from the bowels of Mother Russia, he has thrown his hat into the ring as a California governor, as have a multitude of other entertaining candidates.
Entertaining used very loosely here.
Yeah. So what do you think about Marinelli running again? And is he an independent candidate anymore, or is he? I mean, he's running as like a foreign entity living abroad or something like that. I mean, what is this guy's deal? I'm thank God he's far away, but obviously you're the clear leader for the calexit movement, the California independence movement. You're out there. You're putting your name out there. You're running for the governor of the state. Might as well be president, right? What's your take on Marinelli? Why is he doing this to us? Is he trying to destroy us, California?
I mean, as you mentioned, okay, so I've been involved with the California independence movement since early 2016, and his organization, Yes California, was the first one I stumbled upon, and I knew then I didn't want to be involved in it. It didn't seem like my particular cup of tea. I was like, this was before the 2016 election, and I was just this doesn't really seem like my thing. I eventually came to the California National Party. But yes, I've never met Louis Marinelli. I know the same thing that the media message has told us, that he moved to Russia and got some basement storefront and called it an embassy. And now I'm not certain what he's doing. I mean, honestly, the guy has lived less of his life in California than my middle-aged dad. Like, I don't know where he comes off thinking like he knows anything about California or has any connection from there.
He's our comedy relief over here at the Red Star. He's our comedy relief, man. We just a clown on all what he does because it's so hilarious. The fact that he's in Russia, it's like putting on a good show there, Louis. Because we never talked to him either. I mean, how do you talk to the guy? The guy's far away, but he just.
By the way, did you just say putting on a good show? I think that's pretty.
Like it's
but yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I don't communicate with Yes California. I've never been involved with Yes California. I don't.
Oh, we call it Doc California here.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been involved with them. I cannot say what Lewis is saying. I cannot pretend to deign his motivations. He doesn't seem to actually like California very much.
Yeah,
I find
it's
utterly baffling.
I don't think so. Michael, thank you very much for the interview. Michael Loebs, chairperson for the California National Party, running for California governor, current leader of the calexit movement, the California independence movement. He is the lead man right now in charge. He's putting himself out there because he believes in the state. He's got the progressive values needed for the state. When you go out and go on this special election, if you do not want Newsom or you're tired of Newsom, like some of us are.
I should point out that you can, even if you vote against the recall, you still get to vote for a candidate. You can vote against the recall and still vote Loebs. Vote in favor of the recall. It's up to you. I think there's lots of reasons to vote for or against the recall. I leave it up to every individual Californian. But even if you're voting against the recall, I think it definitely makes sense to vote for a candidate whose main message, which is mine, is that this two-party system in California isn't cutting it anymore. Voting for a Democrat or a Republican isn't going to fix a single thing in California.
Absolutely right. You're 100%. Michael, thank you very much. I think we went a little bit over on our time, but that's okay. You have a wonderful day, my man.
Thank you. Take care.
Wow, a great interview, Shankar. It's going to be tough to follow. All right. Well, for tonight's talking point, should businesses ask customers about vaccination status? In a recent poll, a majority of Californians say yes. Of over 10,000 registered voters polled between April 29th and May 5th by the Institute of Governmental Studies at the University of California, Berkeley, 2 out of 3 Californians said businesses like concert venues, sports stadiums, cruise ships, and casinos should be allowed to check vaccination records of those who want to enter. The survey also found 61% of voters support allowing employers to require their employees to be vaccinated for COVID-19, as Gavin Newsom's administration gears up to fully reopen the California economy on June 15th, and California also plans to lift its mask mandate for fully vaccinated individuals. Talking point. As with most polls in California, the voter opinion on vaccine verification was divided right down partisan and ideological lines. Progressive Californians and vaccinated voters overwhelmingly support allowing some businesses to verify vaccines for their patrons, even requiring them for their employees. Of course, conservative Californians, champions of everybody else taking personal responsibility except them, you know, the original "How dare California not open it up right now" anti-vaxxer haircut temper tantrum Karens, those maggot people who demand we all thank Trump for the vaccines that they now will refuse to get, stand opposed to any vaccine verification process at all. That brings up a calexit question. How can conservatives, particularly California conservatives, in those red state areas of California, demand so much consideration of irrelevant arguments and still keep a straight face? Talking point number 2. California Pride Festivals to be held virtually this year. A little reminder to our California rebels, June is Pride Month. We at Red Star Report were reminded of this when we received notification that Long Beach Pride, which is normally scheduled for the 3rd weekend of May, that would have been last week, would be virtually celebrated and held on Sunday, and was held on Sunday, May 16th, due to COVID-19 restrictions. This is the 2nd year without a physical Pride parade after the 2020 celebration was canceled. Elsa Martinez, president of Long Beach Pride, said in a phone interview that her team took a wait-and-see approach that had to make a decision by early April, while large events were still prohibited. So the decision came down to safety. but also necessary lead time that goes into planning the annual parades and festivals. With this in mind, Los Angeles Pride will also be virtual this year, offering a month of digital events, with June including a live stream concert, while San Francisco Pride will sponsor virtual events as well as a socially distanced movie night at Oracle Park Friday and Saturday, June 11th and 12th. For more info on Pride events and celebrations in California, check the comments section below, or we at Red Star Report encourage you to internet search for local events using Pride events near me. Talking point. No issue in California illustrates the positive evolution of public thinking like LGBTQ rights here in California. 44 years ago, a field poll of Californians, that's 1977, showed that only 28% favored gay marriage. Quote, gay marriage. These days, polls published by the Associated Press show 61% of Californians favor same-sex marriage, with 78% support from respondents under the age of 40, and with 39% support even from California Republicans and non-affiliated conservatives. This means that in less than half a century, Californian support for the rights of the LGBTQ community has generally evolved from 3 in 10 to better than 7 out of 10, where even as much of America in their election cycles runs back and forth from indifferent to hostile to the gay community, California will stay one of the most LGBTQ accepting places on the planet. A talking point where all Californians, LGBTQ and ally, can show some pride. And a talking point where the California independence movement can find some hope. That's it for this week. As always, check out our website, www.redstarreport.com. Transcripts of talking points will be posted there. Also be sure to subscribe to our Red Star Report YouTube channel. Go find our Red Star Report Facebook page. Go find our Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. Because, as I always say, if you want a real California independence movement media group, it's all about the algorithms. Our thanks to you and all our Red Star Rebels for watching. Have a great weekend. We are Red Star Report.